Cold War, beginning in 1947, was an era filled with much tension and fear for the United States. The Western powers, most notably the United States and its NATO allies, were at war with the Communist powers. Leading the Communist regime in the Soviet Union was Joseph Stalin. At this point in time, Stalin was not only a leader of the Communist Party in the Soviet Union, but also all of its satellite states. One of the most fearful parts about this era was the fact that the US was not the only country in possession of a nuclear arsenal anymore. Meanwhile, back in the US, a movement known as the Red Scare was occurring. The Red Scare was a time where many US citizens and government officials were afraid that the country and the government was being infiltrated by the Communist Party. One of the most significant figures during this era was Senator Joseph McCarthy. Elected in 1947, he devoted much of his time to uncovering communist parties within the United States.
Joseph McCarthy was born in the small towns of Grand Chute, Wisconsin. He was born to Bridget Tinnery, his mother from Ireland, and his father Timothy McCartney, who was of German descent, born in the United States. These two parents owned and lived on a small farm. Living in a small farming town with Irish and German parents, he decided to drop out of high school at the age of 14 to help them out. Later, he decided to return to high school, and he eventually graduated at the age of 20. Starting in 1930, he studied engineering and then law at Marquette University. This is where he earned his degree. And in 1936, he decided to run for district attorney, but this campaign was not successful. His luck did turn around, though, in 1939, when he won the 10th District Circuit Judge election. In 1942, McCarthy was commissioned into the United States Marine Corps as an officer. He served as an intelligence officer in the Solomon Islands and Bougainville throughout the war. In 1944, while still an active Marine, McCarthy decided to run for Senate as a Republican. He was defeated by the other GOP nomination, Alexander Wiley. In 1945, he left the Marines and was re-elected into the circuit court position he had previously held. During this time, he decided to run in the 1946 GOP Senate primary. His challenger was three-term Senator Robert La Follette. McCarthy criticized La Follette for not enlisting during the war. This paid off because McCarthy won the primary nomination by 5,000 votes. Now, he was running against the Democratic nomination Howard McMurray, who he eventually did beat. During his time in the Senate, he became a very popular speaker. Organizations all over the United States were inviting him to speak on a variety of topics. One of the most significant speeches occurred on February 9th, 1950. It was known as the Wheeling Speech. This marked the beginning of his anti-communist campaign.
February 9th, 1950, the day that gave McCarthy a major rise in the national profile, Wheeling, West Virginia. Republican Senator Joseph McCarthy gave his first public speech against communism. McCarthy claimed that he had in his possession a list of 205 names who were working within the State Department who were associated with the Communist Party and regime. However, to this day, there is controversy whether the list had contained 205 names or 57 names. Nonetheless, the senator from Wisconsin claimed that the State Department of the government of the United States of America, a government built on democracy, was infested with communism from the growing Communist Party led in the Soviet Union. At the time of McCarthy's public statement at Wheeling, China had just fallen to the communist regime, and the growing threat of the Communist Party in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe remained. The Red Scare of America became more real when McCarthy claimed to have identified communists within the American political system. After the accusations made against numerous members of the Senate, intensive security checks were made to ensure there were in fact no communists working within the democratic system. After the security investigations, 79 employees had been removed from their jobs, as was advised by Joseph McCarthy, to ensure the safety of the United States. As a pioneer for the anti-communist movement, the senator from small-town Wisconsin received a lot of press and attention after his infamous speech on February 9th regarding the loyalty of many people within the government.
After his speech at Wheeling, McCarthy quickly became increasingly prominent in the American governmental system. The word McCarthyism was coined by the Washington Post. McCarthyism, meaning the mudslinging and undermining tactics McCarthy utilized in order to bring his opponents to their knees. McCarthy flew the new banner with pride, stating, "McCarthyism is Americanism with its sleeves rolled up." He was so proud of the term, he even titled his book after it, McCarthyism, The Fight for America. Wielding his newfound power with pride, he quickly began to heavily influence the upcoming election. Every single one of the incoming Republicans McCarthy endorsed won their respective elections. McCarthy became increasingly confident and brash in his accusations towards the Democratic majority. Truman and McCarthy often clashed after McCarthy accused the ruling Democratic Party of engaging in 20 years of treason. One of the more ill-advised attacks of McCarthy was directly aimed at George Catlett Marshall, the very person that founded the Marshall Plan. McCarthy claimed that Marshall was responsible for China's communistic leanings due to his work and pioneering of the Marshall Plan, for which he won a Nobel Peace Prize. Interestingly enough, despite his being a Republican and the majority of Catholics at the time being Democrat, McCarthy began to wield an impressive power with the Catholics of America at the time, swaying the vote greatly because of his anti-communism sentiments, which many of the Catholics and Democrats at the time held as well. After his re-election, McCarthy was placed as chairman of the Senate Committee on Government Operations, on which he was placed because other senators believed he could, quote, do little harm. However, persistent as always, McCarthy found a loophole and continued his communism investigations. He accused many people of communist sympathies without any real evidence to back it up. He was quickly losing ground in the public eye. He and his right-hand man, Roy Cohn, traveled all across the world in order to investigate libraries and got rid of books they deemed, quote, inappropriate. In one of his first outright disapprovals of McCarthy's actions, Eisenhower ordered Americans, don't join the book burners. Don't be afraid to go in your library and read every book.
Throughout the life and career of Joseph McCarthy, he was very outspoken and was not afraid to say his opinion. He quickly gained fame and support with his anti-communist ideals, many of which can be argued to be invalid. Finally, he he became too drastic with his claims, and this led to his downfall. He died in office as Senator of Wisconsin. Joseph McCarthy will always be known as the father of McCarthyism and the leader of the United States anti-communist campaign.